Super awkward Funcast. You're listening to the Super Awkward Funcast. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Super Awkward Funcast with Elle, Latham, your hostess. You can watch the show where you are now on YouTube. There are 2 new archived episodes from 2022. I'm making my way downtown. I'm making my way through the crowd. I'm making my way through all of the episodes that I posted on Podbean before. Just stick with me. We'll get there eventually. I just remembered I have to put something else on the docket. And you're going to see it. But this is going to be a surprise. I don't think that worked the way I wanted it to. Fucking hell. Alright, I think it's... Hold on. I will get back to you in a second. Okie dokie. So, here's what we're doing. I forgot I had to open this fucking document. Pew, pew, pew. There we go. So, I used to have this in my fucking, what's it called? Oh, shit. In my, bookmarks, but I had a computer problem last night with ExpressVPN. Shout out to ExpressVPN for fucking us up last night and making it so that we couldn't use their product in Linux. I still can't, so I'm unprotected right now because the show must go on. One, I had a computer issue. I ended up changing my distro, which was a bad idea. Now it's Cosmic, and I hate Cosmic so much. I want to die. I don't want to die. I want to kill it. Thank you, Linux. I miss Ubuntu. And now I can't even get a VPN to work in this distro because it's too new. So that's fun. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I'll probably have to buy a new laptop. But for now, we're here. Unprotected, but we're here. And we're going to go through the show. I also happened to cut my finger earlier today whilst trying to retrieve a dish, which I did not know was broken from the microwave. Well, not from the microwave, but I did not know it was broken from last night. And it was glass. And it wasn't pretty. But I got some peppermint oil, put it on there, cleaned it up, got my gauze, bled out as much as I needed to. And now we're back at it. So I don't know if I will be working tomorrow, but I will definitely be doing a show tonight because this is going to be live because I cannot edit right now. So enjoy. So we should get straight to it. Here's an update on the Lively v. Wayfarer. How do I update this? Oh my gosh. So much happened. It's April Fool's month, I tell you. And she's still a fool. Lively is still a fool, thinking that she has any chance of winning this trial. Which is happening in May 18th. It'll be over by the time I get back to you guys in the pod. Let me see if we can go up to... I can't read everything is the thing. So I'm just going to tell you 13 claims turned into 3. And she still was like, I want all these exhibits and witnesses. And they're like, well, you don't need those. Could we narrow it down? So now they're doing the Dalbert expert hearing next week to see if 3 of the experts are actually expert enough to do the trial and give testimony. And that includes her, a couple of hers, and then one of theirs. And theirs, I think, theirs being Wayfarer. Nicole Alexander, I don't think she has a really good chance of getting through because she made some big errors in her original report. And also the one on Lively's side, Maislin, she didn't do very well. And again, these experts are like hired by them. They give them money. Of course, they're going to say whatever they want. So I don't take a whole lot seriously that happens there. She has Richard Marks, which is interesting because that was Johnny Depp's guy, although he had some really bad information on this one that he was given to try and get her damages, because Lively's still trying to get damages for the retaliation that she suffered, which is still on the table as being dismissed from the MJOP, or the motion for judgment on the pleadings. And you can go get the latest news here on the docket updates.com. This was funny. She had a fucking fit because Lyman was like, give them their affirmative defenses, they're fine. And she's like, no, but they shouldn't have these affirmative defenses. And also, they just stipulated. And she acted like that was such a big deal, but it's really not. And then she like gave jury instructions. It's a whole big mess. But anyway, the Daubert hearing is next week, whenever that'll be. And then we have the motions in limine that are still being decided upon. Like what gets kept and what gets left out of the case. So there's that. And then, okay, here's a good article from LA Mag from Lauren Conlon regarding the 10 claims being dismissed. Let's see what she says here. A federal judge tossed most of Blake Lively's claims, but left a central retaliation fight for a jury to decide. And then it says, in an opinion order issued this week, the court granted in part and denied in part multiple defense motions, significantly reducing the scope of the case. A final status conference was set for April 28th. That's when they had a very bad day, I feel like, Lively, in that, because they were not coddled this time by Lyman. Lyman was like, you know what, get your shit together. Y'all are embarrassing yourselves. I mean, he didn't say that, but that was the vibe. They did embarrass themselves. At the center of what remains is Lively's retaliation claim, which she referred to as a PR smear campaign under California law, trying to get it under FEHA, which is a very tall order. We'll see how that goes. The judge found there are solid disputes over whether Lively faced retaliatory actions after raising concerns about her working environment. This includes allegations that defendants engaged public relations consultants to damage her reputation. According to the court, those allegations, including claims of a coordinated smear campaign, are sufficiently tied to California and supported by disputed evidence, meaning they must be decided by a jury, not dismissed at this stage. The ruling allows those retaliation claims to proceed against production entities while also permitting a very limited aiding and abetting theory to move forward against certain parties. So that would be TAG. The judge also allowed a slim breach of contract claim to proceed, tied to a contract writer agreement that allegedly involved or included protections against retaliation, and also sarcasm, but whatever. The court denied summary judgment on that claim, meaning it will also be decided at trial. However, a separate and more significant contract claim tied to another agreement, the actor loan-out agreement, was dismissed after the court found it was never properly finalized or enforceable. She never signed it. The major portion of her case was thrown out based on an Important legal finding. The court determined she was likely an independent contractor, not an employee, just like on her taxes. That distinction was critical because federal employment laws like Title VII apply only to employees. The judge dismissed her federal claims for harassment and retaliation, as well as her claim under California's whistleblower statute, which also requires an employment relationship. The court also dismissed several additional claims, including defamation and related tort claims, that was regarding Brian Friedman, certain statutory harassment claims, claims against multiple individual defendants. Baldoni's team is pleased. They said, "We're very pleased." See? The court dismissed all sexual harassment claims and every claim brought against the individual defendants. Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, and Jennifer Abel. Alexandra Shapiro and Jonathan Bach of Shapiro Arato Bach said in a statement, "These were very serious allegations, and we are grateful to the court for its careful review of the facts, law, and voluminous evidence that was provided. What's left is a significantly narrowed case, and we look forward to presenting our defense to the remaining claims in court." In addition, the court found that Lively could not proceed on claims tied to contractual provisions she failed to properly satisfy. With the majority of claims dismissed, the case will now focus primarily on whether Lively was retaliated against after voicing concerns and whether any contractual promises were violated. The judge emphasized that some factual disputes remain unresolved, particularly regarding the alleged reputational harm and actions taken by defendants in response to Lively's complaints. Those issues will now be left to a jury. And they've started with jury instructions and getting voir dire and everything. So that's coming up. They're going to do the jury selection on May 18th, of course. And then we have this whole fucking shit show that happened after this that you missed because it was 3 days into this month. But there's always time for her to be the fool. So this was crazy. She crashed out on Instagram, and this actually became part of the motions in limine because she was like, don't bring up my recent words that I said. Don't bring that up. It's not relevant to the case. Then why'd you say it, darling? Why did you say it? All right, here she says, "The last thing I wanted in my life was a lawsuit, but I brought this case because of the pervasive retaliation I faced and continue to, for privately and professionally asking for a safe working environment for myself and others. I hope the court's decision shows others that, as unfathomably painful as it is, you can speak up. The physical pain from digital violence is very real. It is abuse, and it's everywhere, not just in the news, but in your communities and schools. If you're looking, my claims won't be the first or last time you'll see examples of the extreme dangers of retaliation and digital warfare, and it often won't be directed at celebrities or those who may be able to speak up. It affects us all. In an industry that too often asks women to absorb the damage and stay quiet, Blake Lively chose to stand up for herself, her castmates, and those without the ability to fight back. WME has entered the chat with that ridiculous statement. Taken up for her and Ryan, mainly Ryan. Then they said, "She has met this moment with courage, moral clarity, and extraordinary determination, even as others have tried to turn this case into a spectacle, like Ryan. She has kept the focus where it belongs, on facts, accountability, and the right to speak up without fear of retaliation. In doing so, she has helped expose the devastating harm caused by covert digital takedown campaigns designed to intimidate, discredit, and drown out the truth." That's a lot of D's. "She and her family have our full support as this case moves to trial." Ridiculous. Then, in a statement on Thursday, this again was the third that this article was released, posted. Lively's attorney, Sigrid McCauley, hinted that Lively may have already achieved what she was aiming for, because apparently it was all about retaliation this whole time, not sexual harassment. For Blake Lively, the greatest measure of justice is that the people in the playbook behind these coordinated digital attacks have been exposed and are already being held accountable by other women they've targeted. She added, however, that Lively was looking forward to testifying at the trial in May. So am I. And continuing to shine a light on this vicious form of online retaliation so that it becomes easier to detect and fight. Well, you go fight the good fight, Blake. Oh no, that did not let me see the thing that I tried to see. Rude. How dare they? There we go. All right. Page 6. Oh, how dare you? Again. Do I have to install this thing? I don't want to install anything. Okay, let me see if I can scooch it. Okay, we could scooch it. We'll do this. All right, Blake Lively claims Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Productions' alleged Mean Girl smear campaign has cost her almost $300 million in lost profits and potential income. The Gossip Girl actress claims she suffered a significant financial toll in an amount of approximately $36.5 to $40.5 million, even though she's not worth that much for her acting, due to Baldoni's alleged use of the retaliatory phrases tone deaf, bully, and mean girl in his efforts to damage her reputation, court documents filed on April 17th reveal. Citing her expert, Dr. Ashley Humphreys, she also claims Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman's retaliatory statements made along the course of their intense "It Ends With Us" feud have cost her in an amount calculated at $24,375,267. That's quite a number there. That's not even how much she got paid for the film, but all right. Humphreys reached the calculated amount in damages by, looking for whatever the number was that Blake told her. But anyway, by quantifying the reach of the statements through its online impressions, probably with AI, and coming up with particular dollar damages. In terms of income, she claims her estimated damages equal somewhere between $34.3 million to $87.8 million. Her experts claim the majority of that lost income, which includes studio films, independent projects, and a limited TV series, is a result of lost opportunities between August 2024 and August 2029. How can you talk about August 2029 in 2026? Girl. And weren't you going to retire? You did say that in your text that you were going to retire, but okay. She also claims her companies, Betty Boos and Blake Brown, suffered losses ranging between $39.6 million and $143.5 million in profits due to the legal battle. Additionally, the actress is seeking somewhere between $250,000 and $400,000 for the pain and suffering, physical pain and humiliation she allegedly suffered as a result of her own actions. An alleged smear campaign. In total, Lively is seeking over $290 million in damages, a massive leap from her November 2025 claim that the alleged smear campaign cost her $161 million. Her attorneys hit back. Baldoni's attorneys hit back. Well, Wayfarer's really bit okay. At Lively's claims in an April 17th filing, arguing that Lively being labeled a mean girl, bully, difficult to work with, or tone deaf online did not cause further harm to her existing reputation, as the accusations surrounding her character were widely circulated before Lively began working with Baldoni and Wayfarer. And they even compared her, but not really, to Jeffrey Dahmer. They said, if I'm trying to remember what they said. Jeffrey Dahmer was known for being a murderer, so saying that he was a murderer and a cannibal and all that stuff is not as harmful. Hold on, let me check. I'm gonna make sure I got that right. I might not have. Hold on. Let me see if I can find that filing. 417. Let's go all the way down the docket. Do-do-do-do-do. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Hope you guys had a good month. This was crazy. I forgot how much was on the docket this month. It's a lot. Even Van Zandt came up. Well, she doesn't want Van Zandt in the case. In the trial. Shocker. Alright. Wait. Where is it? Oh. Let's go to the next one. Do. Oh, here we go. Fucked that up. That was a big day. Okay, I think this is it. Sha-la-la. Alright, it's at the end. It makes noises. How do I get it not to make a noise? Oh, I know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm always in the dark, living about a keg. I'm not singing that. Never mind. Let me go back there. Hold on. It's a very long document. It's not that long, actually. It's a very long document. It's not that long, actually. She said. Oh, there we go. All right. Let's find that passage real quick. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. It's in a footnote. Okay. 4. Let's see here. I don't like to misquote people. Huh. Lively does not seek to exclude opinion testimony by a key witness, but publications that demonstrate the state of Lively's reputation before the alleged smear campaign. Lively urges that there is no fact or... I feel like that's not... Hold on. Is it before? I'm looking for 4. There's some going on in the background. Okay, it's got to be in here somewhere. Oh, here we go. By way of example, while labeling a plaintiff as a murderer would ordinarily harm a plaintiff's reputation, calling Jeffrey Dahmer a murderer would not sully his reputation, which included a reputation as a murderer. See? By using this example, defendants do not mean to compare Miss Lively to Jeffrey Dahmer. That was not their intention. So that's what happened there. Okay, so that's the Lively update. Other stuff happened, I guess. Depositions. She got a no on the affirmative defenses and then got upset. And then judge was like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this right now. Let's deal with that at the Daubert hearing. So I'll hear that then. Don't fucking file me a 5-page letter right now, please. So that's fun. And then there's going to be an unsealing. That's another thing that's happening. Unfortunately, it's going to be a lot of... clients being revealed, or potential clients from TAG and Jed Wallace, who's not even a party anymore, but why not? So we're going to find out definitively maybe that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was behind the smear campaign against Stephanie Jones and her websites, allegedly. So that's something to look forward to in the future. So we'll keep track of that with the updates that happen. I guess we can just check in on, let's give a little check in on Ryan Reynolds, see how he's doing right now. You know, he is in the news a little bit. Let's just see what he's doing. Shalala. For crying out loud. I just found this without going this far, but I guess I have to go to the fucking channel. Algorithm sucks, man. It really sucks. Okay. Let's see how he's doing. Let's see how he's doing. Thank you.
How do you balance the joy of this and the other craziness going on in life?
I don't know. I mean, that is life, right? It's ebbs and flows, and all. You know, that's what makes it so special. You know, you don't know the good moments. You don't have some bad moments. You don't know the bad moments. You don't have some good moments. So it's, yeah.
You guys are on the cusp of doing something crazy. It's really crazy. Yeah.
24 teams chasing this dream.
Make no mistake, it is.
It's really cute when you started this adventure, and then they were like, "Oh,
I'll tell you that much. We still don't really know what we're doing. All we just the thing that we keep doing that seems to work is actually saying I don't know and deferring to people who actually do know football. We don't make football decisions. We just make decisions about how to share the story and where to share the story, and that's really it. And it seems to be the secret ingredient.
okay." I want to ask you, how are you going to deal with it? Because you could get promoted. There's still that chance. Will you be there? Are you ready? I mean, you guys could be in Wembley on the 23rd, hugging, kissing, and crying.
That is very true, and I don't know that
we
we.
Wembley.
Would we? Yeah, that's what the
Wembley
final
for
is.
the final playoff game.
The final
Right,
playoff
yeah,
game would
sorry.
be-
I
would
thought you
be
meant for the moment where we, win the league or something. That's done.
No.
Coventry did that.
Coventry's going to win the league, and then you're not going to get that second spot, but you're going to the playoffs.
You know more than
I'm in it.
The final of the playoff would be at Wembley, and we could, yes, if we were to win that particular game, we
You know what, guys? I think he looks great. I personally think he looks amazing.
would be in the Premier League next year.
That would be 4 promotions in a row. That's just I don't even know how to say it. I just said it, but I don't know how to say it again.
So the question of are we ready? The answer is no. I don't think we've been ready from the very beginning, right? You just jump in and see what happens.
You are looking for more limited partners, right? Who would you pick from Hollywood to be a partner if you make it to the Premier League? Is there somebody out there that you'd say, come on in?
Interesting. That's a very interesting call. I think
From Hollywood? Jamie Gertz.
Jamie Gertz knows how to run a
Do you know
football club.
Jamie Gertz?
Well,
Yeah.
she also they own
Atlanta Hawks.
The Atlanta Hawks.
Yes. So I just
knows how to run a
I just saw the Lost Boys on Broadway, and so my mind went to Jamie, and I think Jamie would be a good partner.
I feel like that you're right on that. I feel like you know who also knows how to run things pretty well? Michael Douglas. Really
Michael
does.
Douglas,
Really
yeah.
knows how to run things.
Okay,
Yeah,
I got to weigh in. I got to weigh in, Mike, to Mikey.
I like that. Is who
Excuse the background. Again, this is live, and I'm not fucking editing it. You're just going to hear the weird siren in the background. It's a weird night, I guess. Other shenanigans going on. All right. I think they're done.
Hulu, and are they in FX betting on you guys making it to the Premier League because they gave you a new 3-year contract? And what does that mean for you?
Because for TV, getting to the Premier League, not getting to the Premier League, it's all riveting either way. So I don't think that they're ordering 3 additional seasons of the show is contingent upon making it to the Premier League. That would also make for good TV.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to how many people are watching the show around the globe. I mean, very few shows get picked up for 3 seasons like that. And they don't release the viewership numbers anymore. But I can tell you that just anecdotally walking around, the thing I hear about more than anything is Wrexham.
Yeah. Okay, you do the U.S. tour also. Is going to be like the traveling with all the families and everything? Because you're going to Philly too, right?
We're going to Philly. We're going to New York. We're going to Tampa. The game in New York City is at Yankee Stadium, playing
It's Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yes.
It's hard to wrap my head around that.
Everybody I know has reached out to say, we're going to that, right?
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, because I'm a people pleaser, and that's just going to get me into trouble.
That could be an issue.
He said that before that he's a people pleaser. I highly doubt that.
I
Right?
think about 30,000 of the people in the stadium I've said, yeah, let's go. Come on.
He's a Ryan pleaser.
And then, in Philly we play Sunderland, and that'll be a packed house, and I will definitely be there for that for sure.
Huge.
How will you really pay those Premier League salaries if you make it? Because your highest paid players with 1.6 million right now. Where I mean, you're gonna go out and make some movies, do some more shows. How are you gonna work?
It's been renewed through 2041, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, great. Another thing in the background. Let's wait for it.
We find a way. We find a way. But yes, we've got partners. We've got fantastic partners, and we're always looking for benevolent billionaires. So if you're out there and you want to be a part of the,
Do you like massage? Sorry, I don't know where that came from. I retract that statement immediately.
How and will you also take the families over for the EPL playoffs?
That was an Epstein reference.
You have to. Yeah, the families, rabid about this than I am. So my kids are like obsessed. My wife's obsessed. Everybody gets in the Wrexham jerseys every time they play. We get to as many matches as we can, but you have to be there for those. And those are.
My father and stepmother have been to more Wrexham games than we have. They go.
The way I do not give a fuck about this team, to be honest.
Tired, so they go and stay there for a month and a half, 2 months, and they go to a game every Tuesday and every Saturday.
That is absolutely.
And everybody in town knows him and hangs.
Oh yeah, they all know. They all know Bob McElhenney, that's for sure.
Wrexham's
Ryan looks like he wants to be anywhere but here.
authored some of the best moments of my entire life particularly over the last three and a half years, I would say.
Wrexham has brought you to tears. Let's be honest.
Many times. That's not an easy feat, but yes, it has.
Anywho, that happened. How do we transition from that to the next thing? So there's another legal case. It's very serious. We got an update in the David situation. There's a trial coming. It's very serious. It's very crazy. So this is from Complex from April 25th, fairly recently. Okay, apparently it does not want me to do that. I'm not going to do that anymore. Sorry. Fuck. I'll go over here and do it. I'm not allowed to click on the article. It won't let me. It's being a dick. Anyway, here's the preliminary information, basically, ahead of the preliminary hearing and ahead of the status update conferences or whatever we're doing right now before the May 26th hearing, which is going to lay out a lot of the evidence for the trial on the prosecution side. This is the people of California versus Anthony Burke. If you don't know who that is, I will tell you in a moment. To recap, this was from the story from September that I think I spoke about on the pod. If I didn't, oops. But a dude, I did definitely talk about him. I was like, when are they going to catch him recently? I remember. So they finally caught him. After many, many months, they arrested him, and we'll talk about that. But he, in the Hollywood Hills, had left, or a body was left in his frunk of his Tesla, and it rotted, and it was in a parking lot. I went there. I know that. I've been by there. And he went on tour afterwards, and after stashing it, allegedly. And then it was discovered also that this body was of an almost 15-year-old girl who would have been 15 if she had survived to that point. So many still probably call her 15, which is fine, because I just will be like, nope, she didn't get that far, because she was killed allegedly in April of 2025. So that was a while ago. And basically she was reported missing by her parents at 13, and then she was seen with him in all these different places online, and he is an up-and-coming kind of artist who's like bedroom pop kind of. I think that's the flavor of his music, and it's very like reminiscent of, I don't know, like I wanted to compare him to Extentacion, but that's not quite right. But it's very like lo-fi, I guess. And, emotional. And a lot of his songs got kind of emotional and a little too autobiographical about this girl. There's even a song called Celeste, which is her name. Was her name. So anyway, this was ahead of the autopsy and everything. Those results that were unsealed by the medical examiner after the very preliminary hearing, which wasn't really a hearing, but kind of just to figure out what we were going to do going forward with the defense and the prosecution. So here's the rundown on that story. All right, I'll give you a little background here. Downtown LA was filled with eager journalists during the press conference and arraignment for pop rock. I don't know about rock. I guess rock might. That makes sense, sure. Singer David, D4VD. That's his name. The artist was arrested last week in the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose dismembered and decomposed remains were found in the trunk of an abandoned Tesla registered to the Romantic Homicide vocalist last September. Ironically, Romantic Homicide it came out in 2022 before they allegedly had a sexual relationship, but we don't know if they knew each other at that time. It's a little open. On Monday morning, she would have been 11 around that time. On Monday morning, April 20th, during the press conference at the city's Hall of Justice, the media room was packed as attendees awaited remarks from LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman and LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell. The shock among attendees was most palpable as the mugshot for born David Anthony Burke, was unveiled in the room opposite a picture of the late Rivas Hernandez. I'm going to say right now, I think this is AI written. I don't think a human wrote this. But anyway, I will put in actual human words. So his mugshot was beside a repeating news brief about the teen's murder. Then it says Hochman listed off a breakdown of charges, including first-degree murder with special circumstances, which include lying in wait, committing a crime for financial advantages, and murder of a witness in an investigation. Additionally, he was charged with committing lewd and lascivious sexual acts against a minor for the entire duration of the relationship with Rivas Hernandez, beginning in fall 2023, is what it says here, and mutilating the human remains of a body. He's 21 years old. He's alleged of murdering the teen with a sharp object and stuffing her remains into 2 bags. He faces a maximum sentence of life in prison or the death penalty if found guilty. The thing is, he's probably not going to get the death penalty, even if that's the charge, not the charge, but the sentence, because we don't really have that here. The DA noted his personal connection to the death of Rivas Hernandez, who was considered a runaway before her passing. Again, AI wrote this. I'm truly astounded. I am a parent of 3 children, he said, and a parent's nightmare is a situation where your daughter goes out one night and never comes back. A bomb threat was also reported during the proceedings, sending the immediate area into hysterics as the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center was temporarily evacuated. In the afternoon, a not guilty plea was entered on behalf of David by his legal team, including Blair Burke, who is very popular in LA, as a defense attorney. And she is so out of her depths right now. It's kind of amusing seeing her just stumbling so much. The singer was placed in a plastic holding box out of the crowd's view. Similar to the press conference, the arraignment was speedy, lasting just 8 minutes, as lawyers for David requested a preliminary hearing within 10 days, eventually landing on a date of April 23rd. Again, not much happened during that. And they laid out that they have 40 terabytes of evidence against the singer, the prosecutors. And they also said they found, not here, but we'll see in a moment, evidence of child sexual abuse material, which people seem to still call child pornography, which I do not like that term. It's not legal. It's not right, because, as we know, minors cannot consent. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at Jesse Weber talking about it on News Nation a little bit.
A year ago today, Prosecutors claim 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was lured to a Hollywood Hills home and killed, and her body dismembered and hidden inside of a Tesla. Today, the man accused of murdering her back in court. There are no cameras there, but we have somebody who was inside. But we're talking about 21-year-old singer David, real name David Anthony Burke. He apparently sat shackled in an orange jumpsuit, remained calm and quiet as prosecutors laid out these new disturbing allegations. What do I mean? Telling the court, telling the judge, they apparently found a, quote, significant amount of child pornography on his phone. Now, to be clear, we don't know if Celeste was included in those images, but that revelation, that alleged revelation, adds a new and troubling layer to this case. It makes me also wonder, are we talking a new set of charges? I'll explain. But prosecutors also disclosed that a wiretap was used during the investigation and that there were 3 separate grand juries looking into this case. 3? We always thought there was 1. They say there's still a large amount of digital evidence, more than 40 terabytes to process and turn over to the defense. So the judge set a preliminary hearing for May 1st. So that's where a court will determine if there is sufficient evidence, sufficient probable cause to support the charges for this case to move forward. Now, David has pled not guilty to these charges of first-degree murder, sexual abuse of a child, mutilation of human remains. Prosecutors claim he killed Celeste when she threatened to expose what they describe as an illegal sexual relationship with a minor. So after today, as you can imagine, there's a lot of questions. For that, I have 2 great guests. I turn to missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who's been all on top of this case. He was in the courtroom today for all of this. And also, Mark Aragos, high-profile criminal defense.
I do not like Mark Aragos. Let it be known that I did not like how he caped for Diddy during that trial because his relative was part of the defense team, and I think he's been off on this case as well. But you know, it seems like TMZ is kind of like, I love that they're both closing their eyes there. TMZ is kind of like on the defense's side in the beginning, and they're like saying how everything's going with David, and then it kind of switches to like, shit, child porn. All right. Well, yeah, you got a lot to deal with there. I don't know if you're gonna make it, defending all of this, the indefensible.
Criminal defense attorney, friend of the show. We also co-host the podcast Reasonable Doubt, 2 Angry Men. Gentlemen, always happy to see you. Steve, I'm going to start with you. You were there today. How did Burke look, number 1? And 2, did he have any kind of reaction when prosecutors revealed that they apparently found all this material on his phone?
Yeah, they brought him in, sheriff's brought him in an orange jumpsuit, and then they handcuffed him to the stanchion on the desk. He did not look at the gallery at all or the defense side. He just sat down, didn't even acknowledge his attorneys, although they were back there with him earlier. He stared forward. I've heard reports that he looked confident. He did not look that to me. Of course, it's all subjective because I didn't know him before, but he did not. He didn't look confident to me. He looked like he was defeated.
Well, Mark, I mean, these new allegations about material on his phone, you couple that with a wiretap. My first thought, the attorney and me, I'm wondering, are the feds involved? I mean, I'm wondering, are you now potentially talking federal charges here?
Well, given the history, the more recent history, that's entire. I would not be dismissive of that. If you had asked me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would have said no, it's not likely. But given what has happened recently in Los Angeles County, that's entirely possible. But let's take one step back, if we could. Part of what was happening here, and I had talked to you about this, Jesse, when the defense did not waive their speedy trial rights or speedy preliminary hearing rights, that forced the prosecution's, it basically called their bluff. Prosecution is going to do anything and everything, in my humble opinion, to try to get around doing a preliminary hearing next week. They started today by, the cynic in me would say, they brought up there's child porn on the phone, there's 3 grand juries, there are federal, or there are wiretaps. All of that stuff was nothing more than a way to say, okay, defense, you're going to put our feet to the fire, we're about to slime you right back. And that's, and it was effective. We're leading with it, you're leading with it.
Yeah, definitely a strategy. Let me, Steve, stand by for 1 second. I just want to go back to you, Mark, on this. 3 grand juries? 3 grand juries? There was only reports about 1, as far as I could tell,
yes.
And all investigative grand juries that hear this evidence. They're usually used to lock in testimony. None of them, as far as we can tell, were tasked with returning an indictment. Maybe, maybe not. But 3 grand juries? Why 3?
Let me just tell you why, and this has been one of the great frustrations for me as somebody who practices in LA County. This idea of an investigative grand jury is nonsense. There are 3 grand juries because grand juries meet on certain days of the week. There are grand juries, and if they want to indict, all the prosecutor has to do with any grand jury is present them with the charging document and say, okay, go deliberate and bring back a indictment. So this idea that they're investigative grand juries is just a nonsensical way that the prosecution puts out there this narrative that everybody buys into, that somehow we're just doing an investigation. It's a way to lock in witnesses. It's a way to scare lawyers. It's a way to just throw a kind of a monkey wrench into anybody who wants to do anything. It's absolute nonsense. If they wanted to indict, they could have asked the Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday grand jury to bring an indictment of this guy, which is why I said before, this idea that somehow the LAPD was working in lockstep with the DA's office makes 0 sense.
And Steve, back to you. Other information, because I understand you allegedly have proof that David was allegedly involved with other minors?
Yeah, and I've brought that up before. So this wasn't a big surprise when Beth said the word child porn 3 or 4 times today, and she was really, I agree with Mark. There's a lot of posturing going on here. She was really trying to get that out there. But I have another minor that I've been in touch with for months and sent me photographic evidence of her and David at the rental house, and which was an illegal relationship.
Do you know if that's part of the case or going to be part of the case?
I don't know. They've been turned. I can tell you that the photos have been turned over to law enforcement. She's talked to law enforcement. I don't know if that's part of the case or not. They are going to be very protective of the imagery. They made that clear.
Steve, by the way, are people coming forward?
Jesse, let me just.
Well, Mark, just stand by for 1 second. Mark, just stand by for 1 second. I just want to follow up one thing with Steve here. Are people coming forward to you, Steve, with more information about David since he's been arrested and charged?
Yes, yeah, there have been, and a couple people had indicated to me that they would have something to say if he was arrested. They were nervous about him and people in his orbit, and they're more comfortable now. They still don't want to go public, but they're willing to talk to law enforcement.
I mean, they're coming to you, and then you're delivering that information to law enforcement, or they're speaking to you and law enforcement?
I'm connecting them in certain cases. Yeah.
Mark, over to you.
Look, to Steve's point and your question, whether they're going to bring that in, the pretext that they would use, the prosecution would use, is we're going to show that this is what's so-called 1101 modus operandi evidence. That's why it's important that we've got to try to get in the child porn evidence. The reality is it was nothing more than a way to slime him in the setting where there is basically litigation.
He is slime. I'm sorry. He is slime, Mark.
Privilege, and they're pushing back. The prosecution, as expected, is pushing back hard on the defense because the defense did not waive their right to a speedy preliminary hearing. This is all orchestrated kabuki theater on behalf of the prosecution. They are not going to put their preliminary hearing on next week if they.
This is going to be really funny when we get to the next part with the document that they released of evidence.
It can help it unless.
Mark, so you could be 100% right. That could 100% be the strategy. But if this preliminary hearing does happen, right, and this is very different than a grand jury, right? This is not one-sided, closed door. Defense has an opportunity to challenge the prosecution's case. It is a low burden to prove that there's probable cause here to support the charges, that there's sufficient evidence. When you listen to, they say they have 40 terabytes of data that they're going to be turning over. We didn't get a full analysis today of all the evidence they have and all the potential cooperating witnesses. Do you feel differently about how the prosecution about their chances at a preliminary hearing or the strength of their case or what we can expect there?
Look, I say this, sometimes judges smile, other times they get mad at me. Probable cause proceedings in the County of Los Angeles have devolved into whether your client is breathing. That's the standard of probable cause. It used to be a way to weed out weak cases. That has long left the building. Probable cause now is such a low standard that virtually anything works. The problem is, from the prosecution standpoint, they have been singularly secretive about this case, going to the point of shutting down the medical examiner, not letting him speak, sealing the records. Wow. They have 2 months after, and I said this before, 2 months after, they were telling anybody who would listen, LAPD wasn't sure a crime had been committed.
There was a lot of back and forth and a lot of lack of transparency that led to a lot of questions here. You mentioned the medical examiner's report. That's what I want to get to. Steve Fisher, Mark Aragos, thank you both. Obviously going to have you both back on to talk about this. But okay, what we just said, these new details, okay, come one day after the medical examiner's report on Celeste Rivas Hernandez was released. And remember, like Mark said, this was delayed by a court order that was won, and this was put forward by the LAPD. They were asking for this. And this is one, by the way, that the Los Angeles County Chief Medical Examiner called this delay unfathomable. They don't usually say that. Now, Celeste's family said that they are devastated, that they are in, quote, profound emotional pain after learning the findings in that report, details that they waited months to learn. They weren't in court today. And I will tell you, as somebody who read through that whole report, when you see what's in it, it is not hard to understand why. So I'm going to give you a warning here. What we're about to walk through, the graphic details of this autopsy, not easy to listen to, because the report lists her official cause of death as multiple penetrating injuries, a 14-year-old girl. The manner of death ruled a homicide. The report identifies 2 significant wounds, one to the chest, one to the abdomen, with a wound to the abdomen piercing the liver. But the medical examiner notes that those wounds may represent sharp force injuries. May, not definitive. That kind of uncertainty, we know that could be a battleground in court, battle of the experts. I also want to emphasize that the medical examiner identifies these as injuries that caused her death, so that's separate from what prosecutors allege happened after, including dismemberment. There was a lot of disturbing detail in that report about that too. Toxicology. Toxicology also raises questions because the report says that the initial screenings showed, quote, presumptive positives for benzodiazepines, methamphetamines, MDMA, but then you had follow-up testing that was inconclusive or negative for some of those substances. Bottom line is, what does this report really tell us? What questions does it still leave open? I got a chance to speak to Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic death investigator, certified forensic expert from Jacksonville State University, host of the Body Bags podcast. Here's some of that conversation. First, penetrating injuries, okay? What does that tell you about the attack, and what does it not tell you?
Well, what it tells me is that, Jesse, I got to tell you, let me just say this. When I heard that the report was coming out, one of the things I was thinking that we were going to see was probably a frenzied attack. And you and I have covered enough cases to know that frenzied means you got multiple stab wounds. Jesse, what we're looking at here are 2 stab wounds that they have made note of in this autopsy report. It's important to understand that one of these, there's two injuries that we're talking about here. We've got one in the right abdomen, and it goes directly into the liver, which in and of itself can in fact be fatal. All right, the liver is one of the most vascular organs in the body. So if you don't attend to this, to an injury directly to the liver, you're going to bleed out, and you're going to bleed out probably internally. All right, the other injury is kind of interesting. It is to the left chest, so here, left chest, and it is penetrating what they're saying, the underlying intercostal space, which is actually, if you think about the muscles in between your ribs, that's the intercostal muscles. That's what they're talking about. So it's not necessarily passing through the bone of the rib itself, but what they're saying is there is disruption of the adjacent rib. So as this wound tracks through that intercostal space, it's actually damaging the associated ribs.
Prosecutors say that a sharp instrument was used, yet the report says they may represent sharp force injuries. Do you see room here that the injuries that have been detected may be caused by something else?
Well, yeah, I suppose it could. And I don't think that just because it says sharp force, I don't think that we should in totality flee to knife in our mind, okay? It could be something else. However, my number one candidate would be knife. And we have to think about how exactly does this examination externally pair up with what they're seeing externally on the body, and how does it compare to a knife wound?
And by the way, there's no...
Okay, so you can watch that at your leisure, and we're not going to go through the whole video, but this was all before we got this document. This is from the prosecution, and it's a brief regarding the preliminary hearing evidence. It's insane. So bear with me. April 29th, 2026, 1:30 p.m., Department 105. To the Honorable Judge Charlene Olmedo of the above entitled court, and to defendant and his counsel of record, the people submit the following brief to provide a roadmap for the evidence the people intend to introduce at the preliminary hearing scheduled to begin May 1st, 2026. That would be tomorrow. Background facts. The dismembered body of 14-year-old Celeste R. victim was discovered in the front trunk of defendant's Tesla Model X on September 8, 2025. The vehicle had been towed 3 days prior from 1405 Bluebird Avenue, which was parked approximately 400 feet from defendant's home at 1368 Doheny Place in the Hollywood Hills. Surveillance video and other evidence confirm defendant was the last person to drive the vehicle on July 29th, 2025, before he left LA on a concert tour. On September 8th, 2025, the manager of the tow yard where the Tesla had been impounded noted the strong smell of decay and the presence of flies coming from the vehicle. He notified LAPD Hollywood auto detectives, who determined the Tesla was registered to defendant through departmental resources. At the tow yard, LAPD detectives opened the Tesla's front storage compartment and observed a black cadaver bag covered in insects. Inside the bag, they discovered a severely decomposed head and torso. A plastic garbage bag beneath the black cadaver bag contained the dismembered arms and legs. However, the victim's ring and pinky fingers on her left hand had been amputated and were not found in the Tesla. On September 16, 2025, the LA County Medical Examiner's Department positively identified the body from dental records as belonging to the victim. Pursuant to their investigation, LAPD robbery homicide detectives determined the victim and defendant met in January 2022. Interesting. Let me look up romantic homicide. Dang it. I have no idea how to get to Wikipedia. I guess I have to go to Wikipedia. Again, I have so many problems with this computer right now. All the fast tracks that I had are gone. Yeah, fuck it. Why not? Romantic homicide. Yeah, that single is from July 2022. So that tracks. That would be allegedly could be about her. Okay. When she was 11 years old, they began a sexual relationship in November 2023 when the victim was just 13 years old and defendant was 18. Detectives learned the victim had been reported missing to the Riverside County Sheriff's Department by her family, who live in Lake Elsinore in February and April 2024. RCSD telephonically contacted defendant on February 17, 2024 after they identified a phone number in the victim's phone records that belonged to him. During the call, defendant claimed he had spoken to the victim last on February 13 or 14, 2024, but stated he was unaware she was a minor or that she had been reported missing. They advised him that LA Sheriff's Department deputies would be coming to his home. On that day, defendant was living at 804 North Doheny Place in West Hollywood. That's not far from me, guys. They requested that LASD conduct a welfare check at defendant's home. LASD deputies went to defendant's home that night at 8:15 p.m. and informed him the victim was a 13-year-old runaway. Defendant again claimed he was unaware she was a minor and he had only met the victim once in person in November 2023. However, defendant showed deputies a yearbook photo of the victim he had on his cell phone. Although he claimed to be unaware of where the victim was at the time, she returned home 2 days later. Despite being informed by law enforcement the victim was only 13, defendant continued to pursue her. After the victim returned home in February 2024, her parents took her cell phone away. Defendant drove to Lake Elsinore and paid a junior high school student in the victim's class $1,000 to give the victim a cell phone defendant purchased so they could stay in contact. Throughout 2024, the victim spent a significant amount of time with the defendant, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet his family. Text exchange is between the victim and defendant contain references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and use of the Plan B emergency contraceptive. There are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating their sexual relationship. In November 2024, defendant and the victim broke up, although they continued to communicate, and text messages suggest they also continue to have sexual relations. April 23, 2025 is the likely date of the victim's death and when all her cellular activity ceased. The night prior, April 22, 2025, defendant and the victim engaged in a lengthy argument described in detail in their text messages. The messages reveal the victim's jealousy over defendant's relationship with other women. I don't know why it says women, but whatever, okay. As defendant led her to believe they had a future together, she became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with defendant to end his career and destroy his life. Defendant's first studio album was due to be released on April 25, 2025. That's Withered. He had an emerging multi-million-dollar career already in progress. Interscope. He also had multiple product endorsements which were highly profitable. At approximately 8:40 p.m. on April 23, 2025, defendant sent an Uber to transport the victim from her Lake Elsinore home to his residence. They communicated before and during her Uber ride, which dropped her off at defendant's Hollywood Hills home around 10:10 p.m. At approximately 10:30 p.m., defendant sent text messages to the victim inquiring where she was. The people contend this was part of defendant's premeditated plan to cover up the murder, as she was already dead by this time. Knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his music career, as she had threatened, very soon after her arrival at his home, defendant stabbed the victim to death multiple times and stood by while she bled out. At no time did he call law enforcement or 911 or take her to an emergency room to attempt to save her life. Despite knowing she was dead and her family was trying to find her, the evidence will show defendant lied and claimed he didn't know where she was. In fact, defendant drove to Santa Barbara County immediately after the victim died, attempting to dispose of her property and destroy evidence. At approximately 11:30 p.m. on April 23, 2025, he drove away from his home as he texted and called the victim's phone, asking where she was. Again, these were acts calculated and planned to set up his defense within a very short timeline after the victim's vicious murder. Defendant drove his Tesla north on the 101 freeway to San Marcos Pass Road SR 154 near Lake Cachuma in Santa Barbara County. He returned home early the following morning on April 24th, 2025, before going to a radio interview for the release of his album that week. He sent 2 additional texts to the victim's phone that day, which obviously went unanswered because she was already dead. After April 26, 2025, defendant never attempted to contact her again. Now, what's interesting here is, shalala, how do I do this? I'll just get a random YouTube video, yes. There we go. All right. Okay, let me look this up. So he did Zach Sang. I think that's referring to Zach Sang. Yep. This interview right here. Hold on. Let me go to the relevant part where he said some weird shit. Guys, when did he say that shit? Someone tell me when he said that shit. Yeah, someone said he did this interview less than 24 hours after killing her. This man is a monster. This person says, no, it had to be March or early April. I don't think they would lie about that, though. Okay, I'm going to have to look up the part where he said the thing. All right.
Going into dust, but you're coming back again. Is that what I'm getting through those 14 records?
It's definitely like a resurrection type of thing. So, but by the end of the project, it's done. So that's why the last track is called Afterlife. That's like the final blow, you know?
How long did it take you to come up with this? Because when you were on our show 2 years ago, you said you had something in the works, but you ended up getting rid of those records?
Yeah, it was like an interesting thing because when I talked to you about that, it was like I had a very clear vision, but then I had lived not that much life, you know? And then I went on all these tours, and I went on tour with SZA, and I was meeting this person and this producer and that artist and this and I was just getting lost in the sauce, and I had to kind of take a few steps back. So the first couple projects that I made, a couple iterations of Withered, one was like an R&B project, one was like a pop project, and nothing really felt like me. So I kind of had to bring it back with this last one and gave it one more shot.
Was it all titled Withered throughout that, or
nah? No? Like there was a concept and there was a story there that I wanted to continue, but there was no name and there was no like theme of the songs, and you know, because I'm writing at this point about myself and my emotions and my vulnerability, and I wasn't doing that a lot last, couple projects because I was homeschooled,
Yeah, you were living a different life.
Yeah, I didn't have nothing to talk about like that, and people were asking me, how'd you write all these beautiful songs when you have no relationship? I was like, man, I'm a prophet, bro. I just spoke it into my own life, crazy.
But okay, happy 20th birthday.
Thank you.
You literally the other day.
Yeah.
Like you just turned 20. You're technically out of teen years, but you're still like a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's saying literally the other day. Let's give this the benefit of the doubt. We'll look it up. So yeah, that would have been the 27th or the 26th of March. So maybe they're wrong about this. Like,
literally, man.
they could
I'll be going
not
to
have the
arcades.
date
I'll be going
right.
to Chuck E. Cheese. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, rumor has it Chucky is actually opening an arcade, like an arcade.
Okay, well, anyway, we looked at it. It is what it is. Let's move on. Tellingly, defendant, it could be a different radio interview, though, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know how much press he did there. I'll have to look into it. Tellingly, defendant subsequently purchased tools to carry out his plot to dismember and dispose of the victim's body. On April 24, 2025, he ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home from Postmates. On May 1st, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered 2 chainsaws to his home. On May 5th, 2025, he ordered and it was subsequently delivered a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool to his home. He made these purchases under the fake name Victoria Mendez. On May 8th, 2025, he returned to the same area in Santa Barbara County, leaving his home around 11:30 p.m. He returned to the area again on May 31st, 2025. This is an isolated site off of SR 154, where the victim's identification was subsequently discovered in January 2026. Additionally, on July 7, 2025, he ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered a burn cage to his home under the same fake name as part of his plan to incinerate the evidence. Moreover, defendant took horrifying measures to destroy and discard the victim's body after placing her body into the blue inflatable pool to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor. Defendant used a chainsaw and perhaps other tools to cut off her limbs. Small blue plastic fragments were found embedded in the victim's remains, which were collected by the LA County Medical Examiner's Department. The fragments were analyzed by the LAPD's Forensic Science Division Trace Analysis Unit. An expert was able to make a physical fit match from the blue fragments to the blue inflatable pool purchased by defendant in May 2025. In order to distance himself from the victim, he amputated her left ring and pinky fingers because her ring finger contained a tattoo of his name. Her fingers have not been recovered. Defendant then placed her head and torso into the cadaver bag he placed her limbs into a garbage bag, which he deposited into this front trunk, laying the cadaver bag on top. For several weeks or possibly months, defendant left the victim's body to decompose inside his Tesla. He lied to his friends, business associates, and others who noticed the strong smell of decay in and around his home and vehicle. Before leaving on his concert tour at the end of July, he parked his Tesla on the street around the corner from his home. LAPD served a search warrant at his home at 1368 Doheny Place on September 17, 2025, after the victim was identified by the LA County Medical Examiner on September 16, 2025. Inside the garage, detectives discovered evidence consistent with the dismemberment of the victim's body in the inflatable pool, which contained multiple linear cuts. Several biological samples which tested positive for blood were collected within the garage area. DNA analysis determined that various samples matched the victim's unique genetic profile. On December 9, 2025, the medical examiner ruled the victim's death a homicide caused by 2 penetrating injuries to the torso. On January 17, 2025, I think that means 2026, the victim's U.S. passport card was found by a Caltrans worker off SR 154 in Santa Barbara County. Evidence. The people will present the following evidence at the preliminary hearing, including but not limited to the description of photographs depicting the victim naked, as well as while she was engaged with defendant in sexual activity when she was 13, as this evidence constitutes CSAM, child sexual abuse material. The photographs themselves will not be presented, while all possible charges that could be proven were not filed. The CSAM is proof of their ongoing social relationship while the victim was 13 and 14 years old. The numerous text messages between defendant and the victim evidencing their sexual relationship, pregnancy, abortion, and use of Plan B emergency contraception. Messages through March 2025 prove defendant continued to manipulate the victim as she messaged, "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself." These messages were obtained from defendant's iCloud data. Defendant's cellular activity and communications derived from defendant's iPhone and Tesla, which demonstrate defendant's activities from April 22nd, 2025 to April 24, 2025, including a trip to Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night after the victim arrived at his Hollywood Hills home. Surveillance video of defendant driving his Tesla on July 29, 2025 for the last time before parking the vehicle and leaving on tour at the end of July. DNA evidence developed from blood stains collected from defendant's garage, which matched the victim's genetic profile. Proof of defendant's Amazon purchases and deliveries to his residence, including 2 chainsaws, a body bag, an inflatable pool, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a burn cage after April 24, 2025. Proof of defendant's purchase and delivery from Postmates of a shovel from Home Depot to his home on April 24, 2025. Uber records showing defendant's transaction where he ordered an Uber to pick up the victim from her Lake Elsinore home and transport her to his residence the night of April 23, 2025. Proof of defendant's lucrative career as a singer and songwriter prior to April 23, 2025. He had an album release party on the night of April 24, 2025 before embarking on an international tour in late July 2025. Text message exchanges between defendant and the victim on April 22nd and April 23rd, 2025, where the victim threatened to expose defendant and destroy his career. Conclusion. This brief is filed to assist the court in understanding the scope and relevance of evidence the prosecution intends to present at the preliminary hearing. The prosecution has issued numerous subpoenas and is prepared to proceed with the preliminary hearing. The defense has had multiple opportunities to request a continuance but has not done so. Furthermore, California Penal Code 1050 requires the defense to provide at least 2 court days' notice to request a continuance. In view of the limited scope of evidence to be presented at the preliminary hearing detailed in this brief, there should be no substantial impediment to moving forward with the hearing as scheduled. So yeah, that has happened. So it's going to be interesting following along with what happens next. There's another video I wanted to cover, but this is basically about all of the findings in that document, so you can just watch that at your leisure. I'll put it in the show notes. And then also, this is interesting. There's an interview with this gentleman who streams, which is weird, with Steve Fisher. So there's more details there. I haven't even watched that, but I'll watch it at my leisure. And then something else happened. I don't know if you heard. Well, one, Michael came out. Michael, the movie, came out. I have my thoughts about it. I guess I'll save it because there's going to be a sequel. So I can save that one for next time because we're wrapping it up pretty soon. And we want to wrap it up with the next case. There's a court case that just started because, well, one, I was going to talk about this. Trump cancels Witkoff Kushner's Pakistani trip for Iran negotiations. We have all the cards. Says he doesn't want to negotiate. And then I had a little video about that. And then this happened. Oh, and then the IDF is investigating after footage shows soldiers damaging solar power panels. They're always up to something. And then Israel said bracing for Iran fighting to resume soon as Trump briefed on military options. So that's still going on. The Iran war has not ended yet. We're still waiting for that 2 weeks to happen. Okay, so then this happened, and we just got to go over it. Here we go.
Even though he has a hate relationship with the press, that he will at least acknowledge that this is their job. I mean, they go into these war zones and they put their lives on the line, just like our soldiers.
All right, Pamela, you know what? Next time we air some of those archival White House Correspondents' Dinner speeches, you and I will make some popcorn. We'll sit there on the couch and laugh together. Thank you for calling in. I couldn't agree with you more on them. Well, it looks like the festivities are due to begin here shortly. Let's stop in and see what's going on. They're introducing the head table, and there's Carolyn Levitt, the White House press secretary.
Trevor Honeycutt from Reuters. Courtney Subramanian from Bloomberg News. From Time Magazine, Brian Bennett. And join us in welcoming the president of the White House Correspondents Association from CBS News, Weijia Zhang. The headliner for this evening, mentalist Oz Perlman. And now please welcome the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and First Lady, Melania Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the nation's colors presented by the Joint Armed Forces Color Guard, and please remain standing for our national anthem performed by the U.S.
We are going to skip that part.
Marine Band.
Vocalist, Master Gunnery Sergeant Kevin Benier. Good evening to everyone. President Trump, Madam First Lady, on behalf of the White House Correspondents Association, thank you for being here. It is meaningful that you are with us tonight.
Remember, this is the first one he's attended.
And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, thank you for everything you and your team does to work with us every day, whether you like it or not. I'm biased, but covering the White House is the best assignment in all of journalism. We have the privilege of covering the biggest story in the world every single day. The speed is exhilarating, demanding, and it offers a critical public service. Strong journalism benefits the entire country. Tonight, we will celebrate the exceptional work you have done and toast a group of promising students who want to follow your lead. Of course, at the heart of both of those things is the importance of the First Amendment. I want to take a moment to recognize some important people who helped me tackle this job and who helped make this night possible. First, to the members of the White House Correspondents Association, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to lead. It is an honor and a privilege. Thank you to my advisor in this role, Kelly O'Donnell of NBC News, and to the other past WHCA presidents who have helped me navigate challenges. To my CBS News bosses, Tom Sabrowski, Barry Weiss, Mark Lima, thank you. Thank you for your leadership and support. To the relentless CBS News team, especially the White House unit, I am grateful to call you not just colleagues, but friends. And thanks to the mentors and other friends who have kept me balanced this year and always. And of course, to my family. In a world full of chaos, you are my calm, and I love you. We have a big night ahead, and we're going to get started now. So enjoy your dinner, and we'll be back. Thank you.
The guest begins. We'll show you the room from time to time throughout the evening until the program begins, but we're pleased now to be joined. President Trump is invited for
Joe.
For the dinner, a very big one. People are fascinated by it. I mean, I guess it could be a reset potentially.
Yeah, but not the access we want. I go, what do you mean by that? And they said, we want to go in there with a list of questions that we've prepared and we're ready to go at a press conference. When we get called in at the moment's notice and have to shout over our other reporters and maybe get to ask one, yes, we have access, but we don't have the quality access, I guess, that they were looking for. And that's a
Shut up.
But I would say that those impromptu moments are quality.
Yeah, I see it. Just a second. We have an issue here at the head table at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. If we can go to that full screen, it looks like the head table has been evacuated. I saw Oz Perlman talking with Mr. and Mrs. Trump, and they are evacuating. It looks like they're taking all the security folks out of there at this point. If we could get closer, and it looks like the ballroom, I cannot see if people are still seated at their tables or not. This is the quietest I've ever seen the dinner. Can we go? We understand that shots were fired here at the dinner, and we'll find out what's going on here shortly. You can see a lot of. Here come the Secret Service. Let's go. Let's go in full screen here. See if we can hear.
I love how this never happened before at one of these. Never. Just this time. In the middle of the Iran talks, in the middle of the Epstein files still not being fully released, and so much shenanigans going on politically, division.
Karen Bohan, you've been a association president. What is the security? People seem to be walking out relatively calmly. Kieran Bohan, you were association president. What is the security considerations like when a president arrives at the Washington Hilton?
Obviously is taken very seriously, and there are meetings way in advance with the White House Correspondents Association, the Secret Service, the hotel staff. There is a lot of planning that is put into an event like this. You've got 2,600 people in that ballroom, not to mention all of the people in the hotel. I was at the venue earlier, and there were protesters outside. There was a security perimeter. In fact, it was tighter security than I've ever seen. I did notice, though, that at least 2 protesters got into the lobby, and that shouldn't have happened.
So,
yeah, okay. Let's skip to the next relevant part. It's gonna be a while. Gotta find it. Let's see here. They're just hanging around for a long, long time. Having interviews, talking about it. I guess this would happen at the end, wouldn't it? Hello. Unless they talk about it afterwards. I can't remember if they did. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Where the fuck is that part? Here she is.
Typically, but it's chaotic there.
It is.
And they check your tickets.
Here's Weijia Zhang, CBS News.
It's a room full of reporters, so I know you've already seen the president. My apologies, his post on Truth Social. And law enforcement has requested that we leave the premises consistent with protocol. And he wanted to emphasize that nobody was hurt. He and the First Lady, the cabinet, everybody's safe. The president will be having a press briefing at the White House in 30 minutes. That is not a joke. And he insists that we will reschedule this event in the next 30 days. And that he wanted to do it tonight. He wanted to continue, despite the news, but has to follow security protocol.
All of the news organizations that participate.
Well, another True Social post by Donald Trump. Law enforcement has requested that we leave the premises consistent with protocol, which we will do immediately. So it sounds like he is still at the Hilton. I will be giving a press conference in 30 minutes from the White House press briefing room. The First Lady, plus the Vice President, and all cabinet members are in perfect condition. We will be speaking to you in a half an hour. I have spoken with all the representatives in charge of the event, and we will be rescheduling within 30 days. President Donald J. Trump. Mike Dubke, as the Trump interpreter, what does that say to you? What does that? Did he type that one as well, do you think?
I will take the line that he typed are in perfect condition. That is Trump language there. The rest of this was probably crafted by the press team. He went through with a Sharpie, he edited it down, he made sure that he wanted to convey that thought, but there are some Trump-isms in that True Social. That's how it would have been.
In perfect condition is a Trumpism?
I would, if you're asking me my...
And cut to this.
Well, thank you very much. That was very unexpected, but incredibly acted upon by Secret Service and law enforcement. And this was an event dedicated to freedom of speech that was supposed to bring together members of both parties with members of the press. And in a certain way it did, because the fact that they just unified, I saw a room that was just totally unified. It was in one way very beautiful, a very beautiful thing to see a man charge a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons. And he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly and have just released, for purposes of transparency, clarity, I've ordered it to be put out. You probably have it by now, put out on Truth and put out on many other platforms. A tape showing the violence of this thug that attacked our Constitution, and also showing how quickly Secret Service and law enforcement acted on our country's behalf. Really did a great job. One officer was shot, but saved by the fact that he was wearing obviously a very good bulletproof vest. He was shot from very close distance with a very powerful gun, and the vest did the job. I just spoke to the officer, and he's doing great. He's in great shape. He has very high spirits, and we told him we love him and respect him, and he's a very proud guy. He's very proud of what he does, Secret Service agent. And we looked at all of the conditions that took place tonight, and I will say, it's not a particularly secure building, and I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's got It's drone-proof. It's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service. That's why the military are demanding it.
So yeah, you got that right. This was all kind of orchestrated to get the ballroom. This wasn't Iran related. This was more about the public seeing what they would believe, in my opinion, the psyop, and going back and forth, Republicans and Democrats back and forth, trying to keep that dialogue before this elections.
They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before. But everyone owes a tremendous debt of gratitude to the courage of law enforcement, the law enforcement, and working with the D.C. police. And we just spoke with the mayor. And when we're finished, the police chief is going to take over and discuss it also from their viewpoint. But they also performed exactly as they were supposed to. And you see the attacker in different positions, but you also see the attacker totally subdued and under control. So as you know, this is not the first time in the past couple of years that our republic has been attacked by a would-be assassin who sought to kill. In Butler, Pennsylvania, less than 2 years ago. You all know that story. And in Palm Beach, Florida.
Who could forget? Okay, so then you're wondering who did this. Let's find out.
The man charged with trying to kill President Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner just appeared in court. Prosecutors were trying to convince a judge to keep him behind bars. ABC's Olivia Rubin has the new details.
Prosecutors in court today to convince a judge to keep this suspect behind bars. Today, the man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump back in federal court. Prosecutors urging a judge to keep Cole Thomas Allen detained pending trial. Allen's attorneys conceding, agreeing to detention after previously arguing for release. And we're learning more about what authorities say were the events leading up to the attack. Law enforcement saying 31-year-old Allen took this selfie photo in his room at the Washington Hilton Hotel, weapons holstered to his body. Moments before they say he rushed downstairs toward the ballroom where Trump and Vice President Vance sat. In court filings, authorities saying Allen looked up the White House Correspondents' Dinner beforehand, even watching a presidential schedule tracker. And the Washington Post now obtaining this surveillance footage, capturing the moment authorities say Allen sprinted through the magnetometer with his guns and knives. Authorities say Allen fired his weapon once, a Secret Service officer firing multiple times before Allen was taken into custody unharmed. Now, Allen has not yet entered a plea to the 3 federal charges he's facing, one of which includes attempting to assassinate the president. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
Okay, then we're going to look at, if I can find it on here. I don't know if I will. You know what? I'm going to look it up. Fuck it. I'll do that. If you're wondering why he did this. Here we go. Here is the big manifesto. Hello, everybody. So I may have given a lot of people a surprise today. Let me start off by apologizing to everyone whose trust I abused. Again, I am playing Cole Allen. I don't mean any of this stuff. I'm reading a manifesto. Do not clip this. If you do, you'll have to edit. I apologize to my parents for saying I had an interview without specifying it was for Most Wanted. Ha ha ha. I apologize to my colleagues and students for saying I had a personal emergency. By the time anyone reads this, I probably most certainly do need to go to the ER, but can hardly call that not a self-inflicted status. Did he expect to be killed or shot? I wonder. I apologize to all of the people I traveled next to, all the workers who handled my luggage, and all the other non-targeted people at the hotel who I put in danger simply by being near. I apologize to everyone who was abused and or murdered before this, to all those who suffered before I was able to attempt this, to all who may still suffer after, regardless of my success or failure. I don't expect forgiveness, but if I could have seen any other way to get this close, I would have taken it. Again, my sincere apologies. On to why I did any of this. I am a citizen of the United States of America. What my representatives do reflects on me, and I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. And as I've said before, me, Elle, there is no evidence that the president is a pedophile. There's some evidence in court, through findings that I don't necessarily agree with, but are court findings that he is a rapist. And he is definitely a traitor to the U.S. Citizens and loves Israel. So that I agree with. Well, to be completely honest, I was no longer willing a long time ago. But this is the first real opportunity I've had to do something about it, he says. While I'm discussing this, I'll also go over my expected rules of engagement, probably in a terrible format, but I'm not military, so too bad. Administration officials, not including Mr. Patel for some reason, they are targets prioritized from highest ranking to lowest. Secret Service, they are targets only if necessary and to be incapacitated non-lethally if possible, aka I hope they're wearing body armor because center mass with shotguns messes up people who aren't. Hotel security, not targets if at all possible, aka unless they shoot at me. Capitol Police, same as hotel security. National Guard, same as hotel security. Hotel employees, not targets at all. Guests, not targets at all. In order to minimize casualties, I will also be using buckshot rather than slugs, less penetration through walls. I would still go through most everyone here to get to the targets if it were absolutely necessary, on the basis that most people chose to attend a speech by a pedophile, rapist, and a traitor, and are thus complicit, but I really hope it doesn't come to that. Rebuttals to objections. Objection 1. As a Christian, you should turn the other cheek. Rebuttal. Turning the other cheek is for when you yourself are oppressed. I'm not the person raped in a detention camp. I'm not, by the way, that was happening during Obama as well. I'm not the fisherman executed without trial. I'm not a school kid blown up or a child starved or a teenage girl abused by the many criminals in this administration. Turning the other cheek when someone else is oppressed is not Christian behavior. It is complicity in the oppressor's crimes, he says. Objection 2. This is not a convenient time for you to do this. Rebuttal. I need whoever thinks this way to take a couple of minutes and realize that the world isn't about them. Do you think that when I see someone raped or murdered or abused, I should walk by because it would be inconvenient for the people who aren't the victim? This was the best timing and chance of success I could come up with. Well, actually, you could have done the Bilderberg meeting. I'm just saying. Objection 3. You didn't get them all. Rebuttal. Gotta start somewhere. Objection 4. As a half-black, half-white person, you shouldn't be the one doing this. Rebuttal. I don't see anyone else picking up the slack. Objection 5. Yield unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Rebuttal. The United States of America are ruled by the law, not by one or several people. Insofar as representatives and judges do not follow the law, no one is required to yield them anything so unlawfully ordered. I would also like to extend my appreciation to a great many people, since I will not be likely to be able to talk with them again unless the Secret Service is astoundingly incompetent. Thank you to my family, both personal and church, for your love over these 31 years. Thank you to my friends for your companionship over many years. Thank you to my colleagues over many jobs for your positivity and professionalism. Thank you to my students for your enthusiasm and love of learning. Thank you to the many acquaintances I've met in person and online for short interactions and long-term relationships, for your perspectives and inspiration. Thank you all for everything. Sincerely, Cold Force, friendly federal assassin Allen, which gave people the idea to look him up on Twitter, which is on purpose, I'm sure. So he's Cold Force 1000 on Twitter, 3000? I can't remember. or that's what his account was. And then it turned out he followed a bunch of real big grifters on the left side. P.S. Okay, now that all the sappy stuff is done, what the hell was the Secret Service doing? Sorry, gonna rant a bit here and drop the formal tone. Like, I expected security cameras at every bend, bugged hotel rooms, armed agents every 10 feet, metal detectors out the wazoo. What I got, who knows, maybe they're pranking me, is nothing. No damn security, not in transport, not in the hotel, not in the event. Like, the one thing that I immediately noticed walking into the hotel was the sense of arrogance. I walk in with multiple weapons and not a single person there considers the possibility that I could be a threat, he says. The security at the event is all outside, focused on protesters and current arrivals, because apparently no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before. Like, this level of incompetence is insane, and I very sincerely hope it's corrected by the time this country gets actually competent leadership again. Like, if I was an Iranian agent instead of an American citizen, I could have brought a damn Madus in here and no one would have noticed shit. And then it says, actually insane. Oh, and if anyone is curious and is how doing something like feels, it's awful. That didn't make any sense, but okay. I want to throw up. I want to cry for all the things I wanted to do and never will. For all the people whose trust this betrays. I experience rage thinking about everything this administration has done. Can't really recommend it. Stay in school, kids. Okie dokie. So that happened. Then I will say something about Michael. Michael came out. Let's look up Michael. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Michael. It did really good box office numbers. I'm of the mind that... Let's look up the PR of it all, because they seem to be going back and forth in the press. They're showing how, oh, this is such a big movie and it got so many views. I mean, so much money and everything. And then the other side of it is like, remember leaving Netherland? Remember leaving Netherland? Remember Neverland? Remember leaving Netherland? Damn it, why can't I say it? Why can't I say it? Remember leaving Neverland? Why is it hard to say? I did a whole thing about that when it came out on the pod, which you can listen to. And what? And then... So anyway, we're live. Okay. That's great. That's the hallway. Anyway, I'm trying to think. Dan Reed is come out of the woodwork and is starting to say stuff. So that sucks. But here's like the information about that. The box office was 217 million worldwide, which was one of the best opening for a biopic. And then it got such low reviews, such low ratings. Yeah, the reviews were bad from the critics, and the press, who had been on his neck since he was alleged to have done all those crimes back in the day. So anyway, the family was also involved and not involved in the movie, the making of the movie, which was interesting. So there's a lot in the background of what's going on. And now it's going to get a sequel, is what they're saying. Let me look that up. Well, we know... Oh, yeah, you got to talk about the allegations, fuckers. Every time. But I do like that people are starting to look back at the evidence online of what Michael Jackson was really about and how he wasn't, oh no, what they perceived him to be. I'm just going to do that. So yeah, my thoughts are the movie looks like it's John Branca's kind of movie. It doesn't seem like it's fully about Michael and the legacy and everything. But on the other hand, people are liking it. And who am I to say don't like stuff? So, like it all you want. Let me go ahead and check out the ratings real quick. The ranking, not the rankings. Why do I want to say that? That is not correct. That is not a word. Potatoes. Tomatoes.com. I gotta get a new laptop. It's ridiculous. Okay. Let's. Sure. YouTube. Fuck it. Michael. Alright. So that's how fucking divided it is. The audience, 97%, 10,000 plus ratings. And then 244 reviews from these fuckers, 38%. So somewhere in the middle is probably the truth. Let's check the IMDb. IMDb is pretty much, you can believe them usually. I don't know why it took me there. Damn it. Hold on. This fucking computer. Alright, I'm just gonna put everything in YouTube. Fuck it. Alright, if I had a guess, I haven't seen the movie yet, but if I had a guess on IMDb, I would say closer to 6. Maybe 5.8 to 6.2. Oh, wait, it's 7.7. Okay. Well, I don't know because I haven't watched it. I like Antoine Fuqua, the director, though. He directed one of my favorites. Let's go down. It's far down. Definitely not from 2021. Did he not do the thing that I thought he did? Never mind. Maybe he didn't direct the thing. Yeah, he did. There it is. Why is that an episode? Training Day was a TV series? Since when? Wait, what? Huh? I'm confusion. I did not know that was a TV series. I just found that out today. Hold on. They did a show? What up? Wait a minute. What? It's a TV follow-up? With Bill Paxton? What? Frank's in it? He died. Spoiler alert. Oh no, he didn't die. That was the other guy. King Kong ain't got nothing on me. That guy. Oh my gosh. I had no idea that was a TV show. And that Bill Paxton was in it. Anyway, that is literally the only movie I think I've seen from Antoine Fuqua. But David Ayer is really that rocks just because he wrote it. Let's be honest, the writing is the main attraction there. It's really great. Alonzo, right. Oh, I don't know why I thought Frank was a person. I guess he's not. It's not really a follow-up then. Who the fuck is Frank? Anyway, I got off track. Have I seen anything else? Dude, he did Usher videos? I didn't know that. Oh, look at that. Stevie Wonder. He started with music videos. Interesting. So he's really in that world. So it's not that weird that he would direct a musical about Michael. By the way, I have a problem with it being called Michael. Because one, there's like a pedophile movie called Michael. And then another thing was the John Travolta movie from the 90s. And I feel like not MJ. What was the one I thought would be good? I'm trying to remember which one I thought would be good. Jackson? I don't know. Jackson's a little too obvious. What would I say would be better than Michael? Michael Jackson story. Human Nature. I don't know, there's something else you could do with it. Gotta be. I never watched Olympus Has Fallen. I've never seen The Equalizer, really. Southpaw. Yeah, I don't know any of these other movies. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know there was a third Equalizer either. So I will check it out when I can. I saw Send Help, and I really enjoyed that movie, so that's my recommendation for today. Send Help with Rachel McAdams and directed by Sam Raimi, also starring Dylan O'Brien. One of my favorite movies of the year. Highly recommend. We'll see what happens with Michael and everything. And I guess I'll talk more about that if there's something to talk about next month. And then Iran and whatever happens with the Jimmy Kimmel thing, because he obviously pissed off the president. If you missed that, go look it up. Jimmy Kimmel, Donald Trump, again. Just more fighting amongst the group that controls us all. So we'll see what happens going forward. Thanks for listening and watching, and check out the new old episodes and the new episodes as well. And the Blake Lively playlist is in there, Lively v. Wayfair trial stuff. So check that out. And again, thanks for bearing with me on this episode because it was long, and I'm sorry it's so long, but there's no way I'm going to edit this. Sorry. My finger's so fucked up. So hopefully next time I feel better. Yeah, so this is not how this was going to go, but this is how it's gone. And that's that. Y'all enjoy the rest of the weekend that's going to happen soon. And May. I'll see you in May. Thanks again.